Welcome back to the Nullified Take, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 42, episode 6, I believe, the merge episode. I'm your host, Chris, and with me today is my co-host, Jake, for Survivor US, and one of my fellow podcasters who've spoken to us many a times about Australian Survivor and the amazing race, Michelle. Michelle, welcome to the podcast for the first time here this year to talk about Survivor US. How have you been doing?
Good. I thought I did one other, but I am so confused because end of last term was just chaos. Great to come in for a double episode.
Yes, so exciting. And Jake, how excited were you? And welcome to the podcast that this was a double episode and we didn't end up with a non-elimination like we did last year.
Yeah, last year was not on top of that, pretty awful twist that we'll get into again this time. It just was lame to just be left on a cliffhanger that we kind of already knew what was going to happen. But this week, it definitely made it better that we actually got to see what came to be from it.
Yeah,
it flowed pretty well.
I agree 100%. Christian, welcome to the live stream here. Before we get into this episode, I wanted to go back and have a look at our rankings that we had for the players prior to the merge, just to have a look and see where everybody is sitting coming into this merge, and then we'll get into the episode itself. For those that aren't aware, myself and Jake have been ranking players each episode, and with the help of our guests, we've been giving people a score that we've either ranked them as first, second, or third, and they would get 3 points, 2 points, or 1 point, depending on where they're sitting. And these are the rankings for us going into the merge. Let me just magnify that for you guys slightly there. Jonathan is out in front, leading prior to the merge. I think he was largely helped by Jake, by putting him in first quite a few times. But Omar, who's my winner pick for the season, who I'm still very high on, and we'll talk about that, still doing really well in the top three there, high in the top three. And then Drea, those are the 4 top players coming into the merge. And obviously this does not take into account anything that happened here in this episode. Now, Michelle, this is the first time that you're seeing this point system that we've got in place and how we're ranking players here.
Yeah.
I had to let it go for Australian Survivor because it was too one-sided with Mark just running away with that right from the start. But what do you think about the rankings coming into the merge here? Are we missing someone on this list here? If you look at the top 4 on there that you think, oh, maybe that person's being shaded a little bit coming into the merge?
I think Marianne, look, she's all over the shop, but she does have some good strategy there, and she does think quite a bit about strategy. I think you've got her too low, but she's probably going to crash and burn anyway. I'm surprised you got Omar so high up.
Very high. And we'll talk about that because I thought he had a very impressive episode here as well. And Jake knows that I have had the Omar watch going on since the beginning of the season. My spidey senses have been tingling because he just seems to be the glue that's keeping Taku together, and he's getting confessionals at certain key times where I'm like, why are we hearing your thoughts here? Like, it's just kind of like they're inserting it in there. And I do think that we're going to see some great things of him going forward. I also just want to say hello to our Nunes, who is saying, hi, Chris, Michelle, and Jake. Welcome to the live stream. Christian is saying, I'm so glad Jonathan didn't get voted out. Thank you, Omar, for busting your balls to save members of Taku. Let's be honest, Omar is the real MVP of this last episode, because I think it would have been so boring if we lost Jonathan here in the first episode at the merge. And I think, Jake, coming into this episode, that's what both you and myself, we were fearing this. Russell Muscle, who was on the podcast, he sort of put it out there into the ether that maybe the merge episode and the Hourglass is going to be the thing that sends Jonathan home. How close was it? How did you feel about this episode and Jonathan's chances of actually staying in the game?
I mean, it's pretty miraculous that it didn't happen, honestly. I mean, Omar had to do quite a bit of work, and I'm not going to act like it was all Omar. I mean, Jonathan clearly went out and made that alliance happen with, I believe it was Mike, Drea, you saw it. Hi, that's
yes, hi.
Hi, Mike, all those guys and Lindsay, and then he was able to. I mean, he started targeting his own alliance, Marianne, and Omer kind of had to be like, okay, look, calm down, I've got this. But that alliance ended up coming together and finding the common target, which Hai ended up kind of turning on his own.
Very interesting. And we'll talk about all of the moves, but let's get into the start of this episode. Let's get into it. It's a double episode. We've got quite a lot to talk about here. Michelle, we start off on the blue tribe, the Ika tribe. They've just voted out Swati and they go back to camp and they are talking about staying together, but Tori's got different plans. She knows that she was nearly out of this game. She's following Roxroy around, trying to get information from him. He's trying to get rid of her. What do you think of this Ika tribe here before they go into the merge in this early stages with Roxroy not wanting to tell anything to Tori, but Tori being very interesting throughout this episode? I think we learned a bit more about that relationship between Tori and the rest of her tribe members here early on. And I think, once again, this kind of proves to me why getting rid of Swati may not have been the best move for them to keep cohesion.
Look, Tori's just erratic. She's got some good strategies there, but her social game is so bad that she's not going to make it through. I mean, unless some miracle happens, she's just too gung-ho, too bullet a gate. She drives me crazy. Like, how fast was she talking at one point last night? I'm like, oh my God, slow down. I can just understand you. And the poor people there, she's getting more and more hyped. And I'm thinking, God, if I was there, I'd need you out because you're just like this loose cannon. And the whole tribe was just a mess.
Yeah, I think Tori, and we're going to talk a lot about her moving forward as well here, Jake. But as we move through this episode, we find out that, guess what, guys? Season 41 and 42 were filmed back to back. I better cover my own ass and let you guys know that twist that you hated last season is coming back this season, the Hourglass Twist. But wait, we've thrown a couple of different things in here. He kind of sounded like a TV commercial guy, but wait, there's more. We'll also give them a little bit of information here to make them choose maybe differently in regards to who's actually going to be going to exile. And we find out that the Hourglass is coming back. What did you think of the variation to the twist here and letting the winning tribe know that this could be a game-changing reward that you're going to be giving up, but also putting a little bit of that, I guess, Applebee's restaurant incentive in there for people not to want to go and take this reward, especially in the season where they've been starved to death?
I think that it was better, but I mean, the twist overall, I just don't think it works. I think they're just forcing it. I just think that it's kind of a twist just to be a twist, if I'm being honest. I think that it is a bit interesting to think like, okay, yeah, we took away a lot of their food and now we're going to give them this massive reward. But also at the same time, say you can either take the reward or give massive power to Roxroy, of all people. And that did end up getting some pretty funny scenes on the Exile Island. But overall,
if you were in the tribe though, Jake, if you were in the tribe, I know I would go for trying to get myself sent. I would want to go and don't worry about the food. I want to get sent. What would you, Jake or Chris, what would you do if you were in that tribe?
So hard to say because we're not out there. We don't know how bad the hunger is actually hitting you. And I feel like,
especially for Jonathan, I just want to say, especially for Jonathan, I mean, the guy said what he eats 18 or 21 eggs every morning. Like, I mean, the amount of calories that guy's used to consuming and being out there, I understand he was the biggest threat coming into the merge. And for us as armchair critics, we'll sit back here and say, he definitely made the wrong decision. He should have taken himself there. But I bet you he was hurting on a level that none of us can understand out there.
Look, Chris, I've never brought this up in any of the podcasts. I bring up the most random crap, Jake. But I've once done this. It's basically like a starvation diet because you don't eat anything. You just have liquid. And I've done it for 7 days. And the 3-4 day mark, you're in serious trouble. You want to eat so bad. But by day 7, you're like, food, yeah, I'd like to have some, but I'm okay if I don't have any. So I know from day 7 onwards, yeah, you'd be starving, but I think I'd be able to go.
So you're just built different. You just think that you could take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to
Maybe
make
I'm
this happen,
not.
Jake. We need to get Michelle out there on the island. Go get her to
Yep.
go starve on the island, so we can hold her accountable if she does
Exactly.
make the choice to
Yeah.
jump out. Because
Hold
so
her
many
true
people,
to
I
her
mean,
word.
great players. Think about Kim Spradlin in Winners at War when she stepped off in a challenge where she needed the immunity and people were criticizing her for it. She's a great player. She's been out there and have done it before. But it shows that I think hunger does get to you out there. But
Yeah,
I think the more interesting question for me here is, I mean, obviously, they bring Applebee's on. They went absolutely crazy about Applebee's. Myself and Michelle are not from there. Is Applebee's really that popular, Jake?
Okay, here's the thing. Am I a bit of a snob for saying this? I just don't get it. I don't get Applebee's.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, like if I'm being honest, like it's I would never go there. I think I've been there like once or twice in my life with my family on some random weekday night. But that wouldn't get me going at all. Like food would get me going. If they were just like, yeah, burgers, I'd be like, okay, yeah, burgers, but not specifically Applebee's burgers. It's like not giving me any satisfaction.
Jake, so you're clearly not with Karishma then in saying that Applebee's is your favorite restaurant out there. Applebee's to me kind of looks like a Denny's, to be honest. Like, would you say it's similar to a Denny's?
It's a slightly more
sophisticated.
Nice. Yeah, it's for the more sophisticated folk who aren't willing to go to Denny's. Yeah. Yeah.
We can relate to Denny's. We've got Denny's in Australia and New Zealand. I know that much.
Oh, you do?
We at least we know what Denny's is, and it kind of looks like.
I've never been there, but I know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll pretend like I've never been there as well, just to fit in with this crew here today. But I may have been there once or twice before. Also wanted to look into one of the comments that are made here in the live stream that says that Kerry Robinson says, Kerry, welcome to the live stream, saying, going would be good, but it does take you away for 2 days at a critical time when the tribes are merging together. You miss out on building bonds, cross alliance. So you really have to have someone at the camp that is going to do a lot of work for you. And then obviously in Roxroy's advantage here was that bond that he formed with Drea and with Romeo actually looks to be a lot stronger than what we probably thought it was prior to going into this merge. And he kind of, I think, benefited from both Drea and also Romeo doing a lot of work to try and build this new alliance for him when he got back to camp. So it could have been a hell of a lot worse for Roxroy is what I'm trying to say. But luckily he had people there that sort of worked for him a little bit to get those bonds. I do want to talk, and we'll definitely get into the immunity challenges as well. But because we're on the Exile Island and the twist itself now, let's continue to talk about this. For me, the Hourglass always remains a non-option. Like, I mean, you get an option to either be one of 6 people that are going to get voted home, or you can get yourself immunity and survive another vote and not be one of 6 people that's going to go home. Who in their right mind will ever choose anything differently? So that's why this twist for me is a 0 out of 10. It fails every time, Michelle, because there is no choice to be made in the first place.
Exactly. You're going to smash it every time.
The only thing I was gutted about here is that they didn't give him the hourglass to smash in front of Tori's face at the immunity. That would have just been dramatically so great when she was going off at him. If they were like, here's another hourglass, let's just get you to smash it in front of her face to see how she would react to it. AJ.
Oh my God, Tori, do you want to get voted out? What's wrong with you? Why are you talking like that in front of everybody? Seriously, woman.
No, she's just letting everything loose about her old tribe. And then Drea is backing that up immediately by saying Tori can't shut her mouth about anything. And people are saying, yes, you're absolutely right. She can't. And she's got to be counting her blessings as she won that immunity, because I think she would have been toast.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, luckily for her, she could back up her talk in the immunity and actually pull it
Yeah.
out, which is impressive still for her to win against obviously very capable people out there. But let's track back to the immunity that, well, the non-immunity that happened beforehand. Let's call it a reward challenge in this case. Christian here says that Jonathan is a team player on any team and challenge that he plays in, and he was really impressive in this challenge, carrying people again through that, lifting them up.
He's always impressive. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's like Aquaman / any superhero there has ever been.
Well, everybody is talking about Jonathan, and I love Jonathan as well. In fact, I have many conversations with, I know, Michelle, you've got your fan page, and we've got another fan page, Survivor Worldwide, which Philip is the admin and creator of that page. Me and him talk a lot about this, and he's like, you love Jonathan too much. And I was like, you clearly haven't listened to our podcast, because I love him, but Jake is his number one fan. Like, I'm number 2 when it comes to Jonathan. But I wanted to mention, a little bit of shade thrown your way here, Jake, but I wanted to mention, let's give some credit to Mike for this challenge, because I thought, he was in a losing tribe, but the way that he galvanized the team and kept them together and really pushed people through that challenge and staying calm when Drea was absolutely flailing out and coming up with a different strategy so that Romeo can go back down and get Drea up there. I thought Mike led his team very admirably as well. And let's give a little bit of credit to Mike as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about Mike very, very soon, because he had a very impressive merge episode as well.
Definitely. I think he did really well with basically it was like flopping around like a fish on that like big boulder thing, just like use my body as a like ladder, like
or rope.
Yeah, that must have been painful. Like I saw Drea was like walking on his back, and
I know she wasn't being
like,
gentle at all.
No, she wasn't.
But I think we really got to see how bad the players have it out there with someone like Drea, who to me looks like she's physically, it's either her or Lindsay, who are the physically most capable females out there. But someone like her struggling like she did there, for one moment there, I thought she was going to faint. She was out of breath. Like, it just shows you the toll that this game has taken on them. And I think it gives you, again, another appreciation for why Applebee's may have been so enticing. And you might have thought it's like a Michelin restaurant type of meal that you're going to get just because you're that hungry, Michelle, when you're out there.
Yeah.
So I think it was impressive to see. But ultimately, we obviously see Jonathan's tribe pull it out. It was pretty one-sided. They get the puzzle put together before anybody else can get up there and really challenge for it. And they send Rox to exile. Now, the only other thing we haven't spoken about on exile, we've spoken a lot about the decision. We've spoken a lot about the twist. But Jake, you and me both, we've been low on Rox for most of the season. We've given them a lot of crap on this podcast at times. Rightfully so. The editors are doing a really good job at painting the picture of this corporal or this general at camp that just barks orders. What did you think of Rox's story here in this episode, and specifically learning a bit more about his personal life and the eyesight that he's got that potentially he will lose in the future, and that he has to take the beauty? And I thought we saw a very different picture here from Rox, and dare I say, I might even be a Roxroy fan moving forward here. I might want him to do really well in the game because of this one episode.
Listen, I don't think I've crapped on Roxroy like as a character at all. I think it was all based on the game that
gameplay
playing.
Yeah,
very lackluster, which kind of continues into this episode. But overall, as a character, I thought he's been pretty fascinating, honestly. Like in this new modern Survivor, we mainly see people that are just so into the game and just can't really take themselves out of it, whereas Roxroy seems like he's way more like into season 6 Butch Survivor Amazon, gather the firewood and keep the fire going and get the shelter going. And so he was just living his best life out there on Exile. And I thought it was, honestly, I was fascinated. Like I said, I think really cool story of just appreciating where he is in life. He just kept saying like, I'm so lucky to be here. And I think that would be me as well. Even if I'm out there alone, 2 days and 2 nights, might rain on me. I have to build a shelter by myself, keep the fire going, no food. I would still be like, wow, I'm on Survivor. I'm in Fiji. Like, this is incredible. And so it's just really cool to see someone actually kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, and the people on my group, the ones who didn't like him, all of a sudden said, "Oh God, now he's making me like him now," because of the whole thing that he said. I mean, Survivor really pulled at the heartstrings this episode with them, with Hai, and who else was with Romeo. I mean, really pulled at the heartstrings with all three of their stories. And I thought, wow, we don't really get this in Australian Survivor.
We don't
It's
get
all
to
about
know.
rolling the rocks and lifting the balls and, hardly any confessionals. And if you get a confessional, it's just strategy. It's not really personal life to any great extent.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's all about gameplay, big moves. These two players are the only people that you should worry about or care about in regards to the game plan. But like Jake said before we went live here, that apparently the confessionals are that well split at the moment that Jonathan is the lowest person still in the game after this episode. He's got the least confessionals, which is hard to believe because I feel like we know Jonathan so well and he's such a fan favorite already on the show that it really gives you an idea as to how well splitted all of this confessionals were. And obviously, I agree with Carly here saying that this was the best episode of the season because similar to the merge, they gave everybody an opportunity to shine. We heard everybody strategize. We heard everybody's plans at the merge, what they want to do to move forward in the game. And I feel like some other franchises can learn from that or other seasons. And if the editors ever listen to any of the fans, hear this, please continue to do what you've been doing this season. You've hit it out of the park with the edit. And maybe it is just because the cast itself is so likable that people want to give them more airtime to actually tell us what they're thinking out there. Also, Marcus here mentioning that he loved Roxroy saying to Prost that he would have to interrupt him to attend to the rice. He's a very old school type of player trapped in a very fast-paced game. And yeah, I love it. I love Roxroy. Yeah. I'm the same as you, Jake. I never really pooed on him for who he is as a person or as a character, but definitely his gameplay I thought was lacking at times prior to the merge. And I think that his gameplay will continue to be lacking, but we're now also getting to see this other side of him. And for me, it's just such a inspirational story and sad at the same time to know that he potentially could lose his vision in the near future and that he's only got limited time on Earth to really take in the beauty of what Samoa offers out there. And I was impressed by his work ethic, even on camp and putting that shelter together. I don't know if anybody that listens to this podcast know who David Goggins is. He's an ultra marathon runner, a very inspirational guy. He was a Navy SEAL and did a whole bunch of different things. And Roxroy reminds me of David Goggins, his attitude to life and just getting on with it and getting things done. And I think that it is admirable. So I really enjoyed Roxroy here in this episode. But let's go back to the camp. Now, obviously, Roxroy is left at exile. The rest of the tribe is now going to merge and different people are going to start talking to each other here. And we very quickly see that Jake Hyde does not want to be left behind. He wants to take charge of this merge section. He's the one that comes together with the 6 players that he's trying to form an alliance with that has elements of different tribes together. And he very quickly paints a target on Chanel. Now, ultimately, we know he's going to miss his opportunity to take Chanel out here. Do you think that Hai is playing too fast here, or do you think this is the exact pocket that he wants to sit in as a new school Survivor player? If you don't make it happen, someone else is going to make it happen out there.
Yeah, I think you just said it right there. I think you got to take charge in this merge. Very fast-paced game that, Jeff is kind of pushing like, oh, it's only 26 days. The game is so fast-paced. And I think it honestly isn't, especially with all these twists that are being thrown at them. You just got to prepare for anything and, have a backup plan and make sure you're safe. And Hai is absolutely doing that. And I don't think, I would be worried that maybe he's coming off as playing too hard to the other players, but they seem to want to work with him. After this episode, I think Drea, just said like, I'm absolutely not going to vote Hai tonight. Like, I really want to work with him. I think a few other people like made comments that they're like, yeah, Hai really like him. So I think he's in a very good spot.
I think Hai is more passionate to the camera during his confessionals, and I think he tones it back up quite a bit when he speaks to the other tribe mates.
Yeah.
You can see that, and I think that's good for him. Whereas, Tori's the same whether she's with the private camera crew or with the tribe mates.
He's very good at explaining his game, I think. He would be really really killer at a final tribal council, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about toning it down and talking one way to the cameras and one way to your camp members, your tribe mates, because I picked up something, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, but we'll definitely come back to this point. I picked up something at Tribal Council where Romeo was telling everybody his strategy and how he's approaching people and reading them when they're lying to him. And I thought, wow, Romeo, you're being very open about how observant you are in front of Jeff and the rest of your tribe. I still find it amazing how this far into Survivor, we're season 42, people still make these rookie mistakes out there, Michelle, and they don't know how to differentiate between the person that they're going to be on camera or the person that they can be behind scenes, and then how they should be perceived in front of their tribe members out there. So I do think that Romeo has a lot of fans, I know, online, and I've spoken to a few of them on digital messaging and stuff like that, but I'm fearful of Romeo. I don't think Romeo is going to do so well here. I mean, he's quite scared this episode as well, Jake, in the early stages, and doesn't want to make any moves. And then suddenly when he gets immunity, now he's suddenly ready to run around and make moves. I feel like as a great player, you should play with the same level of calmness and level-headedness, no matter if you're at the bottom or if you're at the top. And if you remember right, Jake, that's my criticism that I had of Romeo coming into the merge. I said, I don't know how he's going to play if he's at the bottom. And I think we saw a little bit of this here. I don't think he is the complete player.
I think I think I kind of defended you, but I never fully was completely on board with that sentiment towards Romeo. But I think you totally were right with this episode. I think he was very passive when he thought he was on the chopping block, and then the second that it got reversed with Rocktroy, he immediately was like, I'm going to take over this game. It's like kind of like he and High like switched places. Like High was talking before when he had immunity that like, oh, I'm going to take over this game. And then the second that it switched, Romeo like kind of took his place and was like wanting to. And ultimately Romeo was on the wrong side of the vote. So I don't really know if that ended up happening, what he was saying, but I thought Romeo was really funny this episode. Even if he was a bit passive before the immunities ended up going his way. Overall, I think he's gone soon. I really do.
Romeo had a really great scene with High where they talked about their experience as both gay men and some of the stereotypes they have to deal with. And, you could see it really bothered Romeo out there. And this is the first time that we've had more than one, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, chat or Jake, I know you probably have a better memory than myself, but I feel like this is the first time we've had two gay men reach a merged tribe where they could have this type of conversation openly.
Zeke and Brett?
Brett
wasn't really openly gay, though.
No.
He kind of told it only to Zeke. So.
And what about and also Ty and Zeke? Did Zeke and Ty make the merge together? I feel like they did.
I don't know if there was any scene with them talking about it together, though. But anyways, even if it wasn't the first time, I still thought it was a really good scene.
Yeah, and also I forgot the other tug at the heartstrings scene with Jonathan and Mike.
I was going to mention that next.
There's so many.
Yeah.
It is so crazy. And while we're on the topic of Mike, I find Mike's social game to be the best social game out there. And I think I called this as well, Jake. I don't know how I'm calling these things. In the previous episode, when both me and you had Mike ranked really high, I think this is the first time he made both our top threes going into last week, and we were both very high on him because we thought his social game was of such a nature that when he hits the merge, he's going to be able to fit in with a lot of different people. And again, here you see he's got High, who he's close to. He does have short-term memory, though, because in the beginning of the episode, he says, I would take a bullet for High and Lydia, and then he ends up moving out of the way as soon as Lydia gets that bullet coming. But, outside of that, I mean, I'm not going to, give him too much grief for that because you can't save everyone. But I found it very interesting how he connects with so many different people on the island. Like Mike Michelle, I think, is a real contender to potentially go out and win this. We might still be judging a book by its cover when we look at Mike. Like, even though he's telling us, people look at me and they think I'm not intelligent. People look at me and they think I'm not strategic. I think we as an audience may still be sleeping on Mike even up until this point, even with him telling us this to our faces. And Mike has had one of the most consistent edits so far this season from beginning to end. So if it's not Omar, who I've been on, and I know Marcus has said that potentially Omar could be the dummy winner edit like Ricard was last season. It's highly possible. Then Mike is another potential option that I think could very well still win this season. What do you think of Mike here, Michelle, while we're on the topic?
I can't sort of read him very well. He's striking me a bit like a Mark, Aussie Survivor, because he's sort of playing under the radar. He's not really out there, but he's got connections. So I can't, but he's not getting the edit that Mark was getting. So I'm really in two minds about what's going to happen with him.
Jake, what do you think of Mike here in this merge episode? For me, if I had to rank him, I don't know where he's going to be. He might make my top threes. I almost feel like he couldn't have played it better than what he did here in this spot.
I really don't know. I mean, like you said, he kind of shot himself in the foot with what he was saying about taking a bullet for his alliance. He didn't end up doing that. In fact, he ended up voting for her. So that was a bit interesting. I don't know if that was the editors trying to clown him, but maybe it was just a bit, I don't know. Maybe it was just meant to be an interesting confessional, but I'm really impressed with Mike, and I think I may be a little biased because he's on my draft team that we did at the beginning of the season, and I felt kind of like a fool after drafting him so high because I don't know. You were not high on him.
Yeah.
I just wasn't expecting you to be so low on him after it happened. I think I was just expecting you to be like, okay, yeah, Mike.
Hey, I don't get it all right. Like, I get it right most of the time on Australian Survivor. US Survivor, I don't think I've got that same impressive track record about who I think is going to win. But what I am scared of is that both Omar and Mike is in your draft picks team, and I think both of them are the best two shots to win this game at this point. And I could be completely outplayed here towards the end of the game, but I think I might take a slight lead after we do our removal of the Lydia person from this game, because Lydia was in your draft pick team here as well. I do want to talk a little bit about the advantages, because the advantages that are still in the game, Michelle, it allows for different people here at the merge episode to have conversations with each other. So obviously,
I forgot about the whole amulet thing. It came up last night. I'm like, oh, that's right. What does it do? I can't remember.
So many advantages, but the interesting, fun dynamic here is that you've got Hi, Lydia, and who's the last person? Lindsay. Lindsay, Hi, and who's
Drea?
Andrea. There we go. Yeah. So they're getting together here to have a conversation about if they're going to work together, and they're all saying to each other, yeah, the numbers are so much more important than having an immunity idol or having the stronger power in the game. But you know that those three are behind their backs. They've got the knife ready to go, and that they're going to be cutting each other very, very soon. Like, who do you think is the person most likely to get it over the others here? Because Hai seems to be the one that is vocalizing it the most to the camera. So I feel like he's going to make the first move. He's vocalizing. Can I really trust these people? I didn't hear Drea or Lindsay say that.
I think Drea's got it over. Yeah. Lindsay, at least.
Yeah.
She could be equal with Hai.
I know Drea says that she wants to work with Hai, but I think that's just temporary. I think that she's eventually going to want to cut him. And I think that prediction time, putting on my prediction hat here, I think Drea is going to make a huge move in a couple of episodes to take him out. And then who knows what's going to happen with Lindsay, but maybe she spills the beans about the advantage and saying like, oh yeah, Drea did that because of the amulet. But that's what I think. And yeah, I think Drea is eventually going to get it over on them. And that's pretty powerful that it becomes an immunity idol. But that's really, really tricky to pull off, which is what I really love about the advantages. It's not just given to you for free. You really got to work for it. And having to take out two people that, you know, because now you can't rely on the other pre-merged tribes to take them out for you. You have to actually kind of do it yourself to take them out and not get caught. Because if they find out you have an idol, then it loses so much power.
And you see the blade coming, because when you take the first person out, immediately the other person is like, oh
Yeah.
crap, I'm next in line.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to pull it off at all.
Definitely.
I guess that idol that Drea has could come into play here if they need to idle someone out of the game. Potentially, it's something where that could work. Now, obviously, the idols give different people in the game the opportunity to also form links. You see Marianne and Mike talking. You see Mike and Drea talking. They also have another hidden bond in the game there that could potentially pull them together. And it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to navigate past that, because I feel like there's so much advantages and idols in the game right now that if they don't take a stab at each other, it's going to be a very one-sided game 2 or 3 votes from now, with so much power sitting in between Drea, Marianne, and Mike. I still think Marianne is probably, with the idol in her pocket, the person that I could see get voted out with an idol in her pocket at this stage, because
Yes.
I don't know if she actually realizes the situation that she's currently sitting in. And she is also, like, I mean, she's a lot of fun to watch. She's got great personality. Her emotions go from extremely happy to extremely sad when she thought she was going to go home in a nanosecond out there. But I'm worried for Marianne Michelle at this point, because I don't think Taku's got her back like she's got some of Taku's back in any case.
Yeah, I agree. I thought, oh my God, is she going last night with the idol? And I wouldn't put it past her, because she'd probably think she was really safe and wouldn't need to use it. Yeah, I'm worried for her, because, yeah, she's very entertaining. And she's got some strategy there, because she can pull up stuff from past seasons, and she just knows what she's doing. I like her. She's not going to make it to the end, though.
Yeah, it's interesting. Christian says here, I think High goes after Lindsay first, and
Yeah, I think so too,
trio.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Drea's got all the ammo, so it's going to be hard to take her out, especially if she sees you coming. It's going to be very hard to take Drea out in this game, in this spot. Lastly here, I guess we move through to the immunity challenge itself. Roxroy comes back and joins the tribe. They find out that he had this big decision that he had to go make, and also shout out to Drea for, I guess, reading the play before it even happened and saying that I think they might be able to return or reverse the outcome of the immunity out there. So well done to Drea for seeing it coming. But Rox lets them know he chose to make himself safe, and therefore a different group, the other 6 that thought they were immune, they're now not a part of the merge, and they have to participate and compete here for their spot in the game. And like we said earlier, this is really a challenge when it comes to patience, balance, and putting these blocks of letters together and spelling immunity. And ultimately we see that Jonathan he is human, he does bleed, he does not win this one, and Tori comes out and actually takes this first win at a time when she really, really needed it. What did you guys think of Tori's performance here? And do you think that in Survivor, sometimes, you're the main person on the target, on the hit list today, but surviving one round, she may still be able to weasel her way in somewhere where she's ahead of Chanel, because High seems really, really focused, up to the point of almost tunnel vision, on Chanel at this stage in the game. So do you think that she may have bought herself more time in the game by winning this challenge at a crucial time here?
I think she has, only because we've seen it in the past where people are really focused on voting out one person, they get immunity, and then all of a sudden their brain switches to somebody else. And they're suddenly going for somebody else, and that other person is sort of forgotten for the next 3 tribals. And it happens a lot. So I think she could have bought herself some time, and she could also be now playing harder than what she ever has before to keep herself in as well.
Yeah, I agree. Our Nunes here says the less physical future challenges there are, the more at risk Jonathan will be, and that's the thing. People look at Jonathan and they're like, oh, he's this massive, big guy that's just going to go out there and win all these challenges. But Jake, he looks like, he's an athlete, but we know that Survivor isn't all about brute strength. Like, I mean, how often did you see James Clement go out there and win a bunch of challenges, right?
I don't think he won a single individual immunity challenge. I don't think he did, which is, pretty crazy. And especially with this one today, where it's like kind of a balancing act. The big boys, they can struggle with balance. And that's one thing that is pretty common nowadays in the modern game. And So it's not a guarantee that Jonathan's just going to beast his way through. I mean, it's definitely possible. He definitely put up a really good fight today. He was super close at one point to getting it done. But overall, it was a really good performance from Tori, just to be patient and just take
Just
it
by the
slow.
way, hot take, love Tori. I'm like a big Tori fan because Michelle
Very entertaining.
knows. Michelle knows. She's podcasted with me a few times, Jake. You know, I love the characters. I love the people
Yeah.
that make me feel a certain way when I look at the screen. I'm like, Tori, you know, why did you do that? You're messing up with the
Yeah.
game.
It's like, you see, where I don't really like Tori in Survivor, but if she was on The Amazing Race, I'd love her because they are the people I love. The ones who just rile everybody up, they're the ones I love, but she's driving me crazy in this game. I can't love her.
Now I love her
Honestly,
even more
yeah.
because I want Michelle to be frustrated all the way to the final 3 with Tori somehow just like every week she just survives, and then I'll go onto the Australian Survivor fan page and see people rage about it and get immense satisfaction out of Tori just surviving another round out there, you know? I love it. I love, like, the thing with Tori is she reminds me of like a less effective Angelina. You know, like Angelina I think was more capable than Tori, but I feel like they're almost similar in a lot of ways, Jake.
Definitely. I've been seeing that comparison from like episode 1. People are like, oh, Tori is totally Angelina. And I just think that's hilarious because I totally see it. Like, it's not a perfect comparison by any means, but if there's anyone on this cast that's like that, it's Tori. And I agree. Oh yeah, Marcus. I've seen that she is a bit of a.
Oh, really? Is social media that interesting? See, this is the problem.
Yeah.
This is what you guys don't know about me. I take social media in doses, right? So I'll go on there, I'll read a bit of social media, I'll post something up there, I'll comment on a few things, but I don't live on social media and follow these guys very intensely. For me, I just enjoy watching them through the show, but I don't know how controversial the things are that she's saying outside of the game. But as a TV character, I think I can appreciate her as a TV character separately from who she is as a person, and vice versa, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Marcus just said she's a nutter. I mean, I haven't seen her on anything, but this morning, I think it wasn't Instagram, it was Twitter came up. Romeo came up on my Twitter, and I'm not even following him. And he was saying, thank you for all the support. Obviously, you had this outpouring of support overnight, and everyone was, he said, I'm trying to get back to everybody. But he's obviously had thousands of messages and he's trying to reply. Yeah. So, you know, obviously social media is a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing, especially for Romeo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we didn't really address it, but I was going to say, like, I know it's easier said than done, but if you're afraid that people in your life, the people that are close to you is not going to accept you as a person, then those are not the kind of people you should have close to you in life. Like, the people who matter will care, and the people who don't matter won't care, and they'll move on, you know? So it's just the way, and I know it's a very cold way of looking at it. And if you've had, you know, it might be your brother and you're like, man, my brother's an absolute, you know, person who don't like, you know, me or what I stand for potentially. And I love my brother. I don't want them to judge me. I can understand how that is tough, you know, but yeah, like, I mean, I hope that Romeo does get a lot of that outpour and love out there, because at the end of the day, man, there's nothing more miserable than not being yourself, I think, at the end of the day, and having to live a different life. So, but yeah, like, as a TV character, absolutely love Tori. I mean, if there's ever a Heroes versus Villains 2 season, she would fit right into that villain stripe with Drea. Drea is the fun villain that everybody loves, and Tori is the villain that everybody hates, but still, you know, I think it would be really fun. And we haven't had good female villain characters on the show since, I feel like, almost Angelina. Like, I can't think of anybody else that kind of fits that mold. And I feel like everybody is so scared to be this villainous female character out there, you know, because they're afraid of being judged.
Honestly, I was getting some parallels to Australian Survivor last night when a lot of the alliances were talking about voting out a lot of the girls, or they were saying, I don't trust Chanel, or I maybe someone else should go, or Lydia or Lindsay. And I'm thinking, gosh, all the girls are being targeted. Can you imagine this on Australian Survivor at the end of last season, when everyone was saying, oh, it's all this mate, it's this bro worship, and all these women are being vilified and it's not even. And I'm thinking, God, here it is going on in American Survivor, and probably no one's thinking twice about it.
Yeah. Christian is saying Drea's laugh is sinister in the I think it's on the next one, and I love it. Like, I can't wait for Drea to like fully embrace the badass villainess that she is in this game, because I know she's just like, we were talking about this early on, Jake. I've rated Drea, my number one player, twice out of the 5 episodes so far. I'm the only one that's rated her that highly, and I said I see Tony Vlachor's upside in her. She can work in chaos. I don't know if she's got the social game that Tony had. I don't think she does, but she's also improved a lot over the last couple of weeks, because in the beginning, I think she was already playing like players should play at the merge in episode 1, where now everybody started catching up to her. So she's not out of place anymore because everybody is kind of playing a very aggressive game at the merge. I think that Drea, the further she gets in the game, the more dangerous she's going to get. And at this stage, if I'm looking at the table, a Drea win would be a very exciting win. Like, for her to get to the end would be, how did she get there? How did she do it? It would be explosive for her to win this game.
I agree. I would be very satisfied if she won at this point, because it means that we're going to see some pretty cool moves from her, pretty cool navigating around the numbers. And I just want to say, preseason, I think I was pretty high on her as a player, but I thought she was a bit dry in her preseason interviews, but that's not
very monotone when she talks.
Yeah.
She's got a very monotone way of talking, very almost reserved, but it's like, it cuts so deep, even though she's like, there's no emotion to it, but it's like she's saying a lot with her words instead of being expressive, if that makes sense. Which is,
it's very sad. I was just looking at cast photos from before the season began, and there was a photo there of Drea, and I'm like, is that Drea? She's smiling. I just found it really weird to see this full, beautiful smile, and I don't think I've seen it on the show, and I'm like, okay, that is Drea. It's just weird.
I think it's so funny. She laughs at herself a lot. Like, she laughs at what she says in confessionals, and I think that's just really funny that she doesn't seem to really get a kick out of anyone else but herself. I think that's kind of funny.
I'll have to look out for that now in the future. I don't specifically remember that, but one of my favorite lines from her so far was that if someone in business was going to cost her $1 million, she'd just fire them. But in Survivor, you got to work with them, type of thing. And I just love that, because Drea is a businesswoman. She runs her own business, Michelle. She brings that cutthroatness to the game of Survivor, So I'm here for it. Like, I'm enjoying it at this stage. And Christian says here the Drea is cool, calm, and collective, which I agree with. Now we go back to camp. It's going to be a mad dash. It's going to be a scramble before they go to Tribal Council. Roxroy is trying to fit in and find his person. He immediately bonds with Mike and with Jonathan. Him and Jonathan talk about going out and catching fish, So again, I feel really good about Roxroy here. I think he's going to do a lot better than what we expect. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a lot of this negativity early on for Roxroy, because they wanted to paint a picture of him not winning at the end, but then him somehow getting to the end, if that makes sense. Like, now that we're starting to like him a little bit as well, at the end we would be able to go back and say, okay, we get why he didn't win. He's a little bit bossy at camp. He does some of these things that put people off, but I think people might drag him along towards the end of this game. I can very easily see him being there for a lot longer, but clearly Roxroy's story this season is one of discovery, a journey that he's going on, and it's about more than just the game itself, where other players potentially might take that crown this season. But I found it very interesting, because with everything shifting, everybody seemed to be Team Jonathan. Oh, he's so nice to have around camp. He's going to bring us food. We love having him. Let's not care about the fact that he can win immunities. But Jake, it changed in a hot second here when Jonathan became eligible as a vote, and suddenly everybody had their knives out and they tried to go for him. Even the 6 people or the 5 people that he wanted to work with in that alliance tried to make a move here on Jonathan.
I mean, he's right there. Like, you've seen him the past, however many challenges, just killing it. And, it seems like every episode someone makes a comment about, oh man, Jonathan, he's Goliath. He's this.
It's normally Jeff.
No, very true. Very true. Jeff doesn't seem to care that he's painting his own target on Jonathan's back. But
just while we're on it, sorry, I know I'm interrupting your train of thought.
That's all right.
How much do you think Jeff would have absolutely raged if this Hourglass Twist was the thing that actually got Jonathan out of the game? Because he loves Jonathan, right? And
that would,
Do you think it would have been the end of him bringing out new twists after this? He'd be like, listen, I'm done with new twists because I'm doing too much.
Not the new twist, but something maybe like this where it takes away immunity from. Because here's the thing that really annoyed me. A bit of a side tangent here. The 3 people that received the most votes were Lydia, Jonathan, and Marianne. And they were the 3 people who contributed the most to that challenge. Lydia and Marianne worked on the puzzle and were able to close it out. And then, as we know, Jonathan was able to really build up a lead for them and pull everyone up the ladder. He was able to pull the boulder out with the help of everyone else. So that just kind of annoyed me that, like, not only did the people who win immunity, were they the ones on the chopping block, which was the whole point of the twist, which is just ridiculous. But it was the 3 people that, like, really, like, kind of contributed the most to the challenge that kind of pissed me off.
Yeah.
Because at least last season, Sydney, I don't really remember if she contributed too much to that challenge, but this season, I think it just annoyed me a bit more.
Yeah.
You know what I don't understand is that it's a completely different challenge game after merge. You know, you want to get out the people who've got the stamina, who obviously don't have the big muscle mass, but they're the ones who are going to win a lot of the challenges that happen after merge, different kind of challenges whatsoever. And they never go for those people. They never go for the smaller people who are obviously strategic, but also can win these challenges. They always go for the big guys. The big guys aren't winning a lot of challenges after merge.
By the way, well done to High for recognizing that, because I look at who is those people that could win a lot of challenges. High is one of them, and he's like, hey, I'm a physical threat. I need Jonathan in the game. So I think that he sacrificed his alliance member Lydia here to keep his shield in the game, because he knows he's not next in line. People will continue to focus on Jonathan. Jonathan's not going anywhere. So it's a smart move for both him and Mike to keep him in the game. And like Christian says here, you potentially could see a Jonathan and Mike deal. I think Mike feels really close to Jonathan since they've got such a similar story or a similar experience in life that they thought, okay, well, we've got enough people we can work here. We can sacrifice Lydia in this vote potentially. But it was a tricky vote because we ended up with quite a split, like 2 on Jonathan, 2 on Marianne, 1 on Lindsay, and then 5 on Lydia. Obviously, Omar didn't get a vote in this as well. Really bad play by Chanel not to tell Omar about this. He was always going to find out about it. What was she thinking? Not telling Omar, listen, you've lost your vote. But luckily, Omar knew this in time. So when he heard that the vote could potentially be on Marianne and also on Jonathan, he ended up finding a way to move the target off completely from any of his Taku members. That's why I still think Taku has some longevity in this game. As long as they can keep those 4 in the game, very slowly but surely, they are going to have some power within the numbers. Let's not forget, Marianne, I believe, has got an extra vote and an immunity. So they now have 5 votes as a collective in the next round if they can vote together. So, so much idols, so much advantages still in the game. Things are about to blow up, Michelle. I think that, everybody's going to be bringing their weapons very soon. Like in the next couple of episodes, these things are going to start getting flushed.
Yeah, it'll be good. Be good to get some things out. Then they'll get other things back in and just get things being used.
I agree. Well, we've got a little bit of work to do here on the draft picks for this week. Let's have a quick look at where we're standing over here. We have got a new person in Lydia being voted out. So for the first time, I think this season, I'm taking a lead here, Jake. We've been pretty even throughout the season.
Yeah.
But like I said, I am worried. You still have Omar. You still have Mike there. I kind of can see a way for Lindsay still. Like, I feel like those are your 3 best players on the board at the moment. I do have High, though, who was my preseason winner pick, still in the game. I've got Drea, who I think could be an exciting winner. I've got Jonathan still in there as well. And then the 3 in the middle, I'm not too sure of a win here.
Got Rocks, Roy. Come on.
I got Rocks. I mean, he could still rock our world and go to the end,
That's so funny, Chris. Your top 3, or the 3 that are the first in your line, are the 3 that I've sort of picked at the end of this double episode are my 3 picks to get to the end. So
well, we're gonna talk about that next. So great segue into the next part of this podcast. As we get into the finishing stages here, everybody in the live stream, feel free to give us your number 3, number 2, and number 1 player for the week, based on what we saw on this merge episode. Myself, Michelle, and Jake, we've been ranking people throughout the whole season with our guests. We're going to be continuing our rankings to see if anybody potentially could overtake Jonathan this week. And we're going to start, since you mentioned it first, Michelle, let's start with you. Who's your number 3 pick here for week 1 of the merge?
I'm thinking Roxroy. Roxroy's my 3. I've got, I see Drea and High. I'm sort of alternating between 1 and 2, depending on what people say to me about them. Look, Drea could make it to the end. But so could High, but I'm putting High at 1, Drea at 2, Roxroy at 3.
So you've got Roxroy at 3, Drea at
2, High at 1.
High at 1. Okay. I like that. I like those picks. Jake, since we're going 3, 2, and 1, who's your 3, 2, and 1?
Let's see. I think I have, Mike 3, Drea 2, Omer 1.
Right, let me just write this down because I am going to forget it. I just know I'm going to forget it. So you've got Mike 3.
Yep. Drea 2.
Drea 2.
And Omer 1.
Omar 1.
Yep.
And Michelle, your list here was?
Roxroy 3, Drea 2,
Yep.
High 1.
High, okay.
Who are you?
I'm going to go. Okay, so my number 3 for the merge episode is going to be Omar. He continues to be someone that I keep a focus on in this game. Getting the vote off his people, not having a vote, but still dictating who actually went home this episode was impressive to witness. I can still see people seeing him as that schemy person in the background and wisening up to it. I mean, do High really need Omar in this game? No, he needs Jonathan because Jonathan is a shield for him, but I feel like Omar is High 2.0. Like they're the same player, and High might want to be Jonathan's Omar rather than having Omar in the way between him and Jonathan if he wants to get him as a shield, because they're both looking at the game the same way at the moment. So I'll put Omar as my number 3 here in the game. My number 2 in the game, I'm going to put as High. I am worried for High. There's a part of me that's worried that he could be the Ricard of the season. It's funny how someone else mentioned that Omar could be. Either Omar or High is the Ricard of the season. I don't know which one it is.
High.
More High is more Ricard.
Yeah, I see it with him.
But I have to give him credit for having urgency this episode, getting people together to form the alliance that they wanted to have, and actually making things happen. Like, I feel like so many players in Survivor have got thoughts and ideas in their head that never manifest, and they end up leaving the game without they even having an opportunity to actually play it. And he is someone that at least is playing the game at the moment. So I do respect that from High, and I do think between him and Omar, he's got a higher likelihood of winning challenges at the end stretch here and going on a run. So I feel like he's a bit of an undercover person here. And then it's funny, most of us, how have I left? It's so tough because now I have to think there's 2 players here for me that's very, very much still in my mind, and it's Drea and Mike.
You can't say 2.
I know. But like, I just want to give honorable mention to Mike, who's just going to miss out on the final 3, and I feel bad about it because I feel like he's played such a good social game, but and I might still be underestimating you, Mike. If you ever listen to this, you're probably not. I might still be underestimating you. I just haven't seen the strategy and you putting a vote together. I feel like High has got more of that urgency and getting things happening in regards to that. But his social game is next level. And if he gets to the end, he's going to be a likable person that a lot of people are going to vote for. So, sorry, Mike, you're not in my top 3 this week. I'm going to go with Drea for the 3rd time this season, Jake. That's crazy. 3rd time this season. I'm a massive Drea stan, like by the sounds of it at the moment. But Drea, to me, has just got all the power, all the tools. I feel like it's Drea's game to lose at this point with everything that she's got, with all the connections she has. I feel like she's in a very, very solid spot. But this is exciting, guys. We've got a merge episode full of fun characters. So many people out there that different people can shout for. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with our picks as well.
Yeah.
So Chris, short-term memory, is the first thing to go. Good point. Michelle, you'd think people would learn after 20 years. After the merge, it's a new game. So Christian says Alabama Muscle Beach Boy and Jersey Hoboken Firefighter. The true contenders are Drea, Mike, Jonathan, Hai, and Omar. I'm just really loving this season, Michelle. Like, this has been so refreshing. I feel like after Australian Survivor this season, where there's been so much negativity online, the edit was so one-sided. Survivor 42
we
has
need
really
the
shown
American editors to come over and do the Australian season just once, so that Australian public can see how it should be edited, for Christ's sake.
But is there a case to be made here that sometimes when you're on the other side of the world, you crave what you don't have? Like, because so many of the Aussie or so many of the US fans love Brains versus Brawn. Like when it was on Paramount Plus, people were raving about it, Jake, and they couldn't get enough of it, right? So,
yeah, but that's the characters and the weird, wonderful characters that Australia has. Mm-hmm. However, you need to edit everyone the same. I'd love to have the same amount of confessionals as the Americans have, very much across the board. Like, what happens?
Yeah.
Kerry here saying number 3, Drea, number 2, Hai, number 1, Omar. So there's a lot of people thinking the same as us here. Brianification saying Marianne is my number 1. A problem in the future is Shield. Yeah. Yeah. I can see, Marianne, she's my number 1 in my heart. Like, I love her as a character. I don't know if she'll win this season, but man, she's fun to watch this season.
Yeah.
Guys, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. It's been a lot of fun talking to you about the merge episode. If you are still listening to this at this stage on the audio version or even here in the live stream, firstly, thanks to everybody that listened to this in the live stream and that was also very involved and active in chatting. It's always fun to have you guys along for the ride. But consider subscribing, consider hitting a like and commenting below to let us know what you thought of this episode. You would have seen I've just brought out a top 5 Australian survivors on the channel that I would love to see return. I'm going to do my top 5 taking points for this week as well. Now that I've got my new camera set up, there will be some more content coming out for that. So very excited about it. Keep an eye out for it. But for now, I'll catch you guys next time and thank you for watching. Bye.